What?
Okay, let's practice something that we learned in the book. So we're done with these files.
What did I? I'm sure I did. It's like all my panels are gone.
Hit the F key on your keyboard. A couple more times. Okay, go one more time. One more. Oh, too far. 2 pushes. Sorry. And now do go up to what am I trying to say? Do Window, Workspace, Reset Essentials. Way up at the top. Window, Workspace, Reset Essentials. There they are. Okay, we are done with these files. Hopefully you were able to make a treasure map by pulling things onto the map and shrinking them down to the right size. So we can go ahead and close these documents. We don't need to save them. I want to talk to you about image trace. So everybody go to Google.
It's like glitching out.
It did that last time too, didn't it?
Yeah, except I couldn't click anything now. It's just like all over this when I try to do anything.
Oh, I bet this is the
Oh
problem.
my god. Probably.
Let's go with that.
Okay. Anyways, continue.
Okay, everybody go to Google and type in cartoon and do an image search. And instead of looking at everything, type in image or click on images. Maybe cartoons, I don't know. Got to get something a little nicer here. Let's try to find something fairly simplistic in the world of cartoons here. Oh, for crying out loud, these are all really difficult. Let's do, up in the images, once you get to here, let's do characters. There, that's a little bit better. And find something simplistic like Tweety Bird or Homer or Garfield. And choose one of those, whichever one you want. And when you get the one that you want, let's do a right click and do a Save Image As and save it onto, it's probably going to go in your Downloads folder, but call it something else. These are all going to be raster images. They're going to be JPEGs, they're going to be TIFFs, they're going to be PNGs, something like that. So find a simplistic cartoon, right click, save it to your downloads folder with whatever name so that you have something that we can work with. Then go back to Illustrator. Has everybody gotten a graphic? Everybody has what they picked, I assume. We're going to make a new document. So create new, and we're going to do it as a print document so that it can be a high-res CMYK, something that we can work with later. And then let's just pick the letter size. Depending on the size of the graphic that you picked, it may be way too big or way too small. We'll find out in a minute. So click Create. So we have a blank document. Now what we want to do is place that graphic that you just got, that cartoon. So we're going to do a File, Place, go to your Downloads folder, and find the image. It's probably a JPEG or a PNG, and click Place. It's loaded in your cursor, so you can either click and drag and it will fill that size, or you can click once and it will fill. So click and drag to fill it into your artboard. And it's going to have an X across it because it is raster. It's not vector art, okay? Once you get that in there, what we need to do is that image trace, just like we did with the island. So click on the image trace button at the bottom right in Quick Actions, and let's try maybe low fidelity photo first. Mine appears to only have about 6 colors. So that looks great. I don't need to keep trying, but I could, in theory, see what 6 colors looks like. Still looks fine. Once you get it looking how you want it to look, you're happy with the colors, click on that expand button. You have to do this. This is critical, or you don't actually have vector art. So click on expand. Now what you see is a bunch of paths, shapes, fills, and strokes. It is now vector art, and it is scalable infinitely. So you took something that you stole off the web, and you turned it into vector art that you can make any size or shape. Here's the thing, right now, look up at the top of the properties panel. Do you see where it says group? Every single piece of art in there is included in that group, including probably the white background on the bounding box. So what you probably want to do is ungroup it, click the ungroup button, click away so that nothing is selected, and then maybe just click out in the white zone out here and see if there is a background piece of white. And if there is, hit the delete button to get rid of it. Now you just have all these different pieces filled with color and strokes. Notice that these strokes aren't necessarily solid, at least in my case. It's not a one-point stroke all the way around. Mine is thick some places and thin others. That's a brush stroke that we can apply that we'll learn in a few chapters. It doesn't have to all be the same size. But what you have now is ungrouped. So if I accidentally dragged on this, I would pull it apart. Don't want to do that. So I do want to regroup it one last time, just without that white background piece. So now when I went to save this, File, Save As, I now have an Illustrator vector graphic that is completely scalable. This can be 1 inch by 1 inch, or it can be 50 feet by 50 feet. I can go in and recolor it. I can say I don't want his belly, let me just hit save here. I don't want his belly to be this color. Whoops, I have to ungroup. I can change the fill to be a gradient, or I can change it to be hot pink, or whatever you want. What you also can do is change the shapes themselves. So with your direct selection tool, I could select, I'm going to zoom in, I can select this outline piece, I can pick an anchor, and I can pull it, and now he looks totally different than he did. Anybody think of any way that this would be helpful to you in a workflow? Okay, that was a dumb question to ask. I'm not sure if I worded it correctly, but how many of you have ever done any level of design work where a client gives you their business card with a JPEG of their logo that big, and that's what they want you to use as their logo from then on? Yeah. Like I don't have that you got it. Well, not really. I have a JPEG and it's 1/4 of an inch. But in theory, you can bring it in here and turn it into vector art. You can clean it up. You can do whatever. If they give you a nice big version of their logo as a JPEG, you can easily image trace it and get it back to be line art, being vector art that you can manipulate, change, whatever. You can also, let's do this underneath our picture. Let me click away to be done here. Whoops. So, see, that's no longer, I didn't copyright anymore because he has a spiky hairdo and a pink belly, so that's mine. Not quite. Not quite. Let's do some type. I want to show you how type works. We get to this way later, but I think it's really quite cool. Take the type tool and click and drag out. Again, mine's at an angle. All that does is say whatever type you do, it has to stay inside this bounding box, and it gets filled with the filler text right away. Type in your name, and then double click to highlight it, and let's make it much bigger than it is. So 12 point, let's crank it up to at least 72, maybe 172. Whoops. Make it really big. I tell you, if this doing everything on an angle doesn't stop, next time I boot this, I'm going to cry. All right, let me try to get this level again. and start all over. It's making me mad. Okay, so right now when we look at type, it's editable. So if you typed in your name and you spelled it wrong and you wanted to go back, you can edit it. But there's also a way to turn it into outline so that you can tweak it as well. So under the type tool, where are you? Why is create outlines? Oh, we need to select it with the selection tool, not with the type tool. So put the bounding box around it. Under the type tool, we're going to do create outlines, which is Shift Command O. And it doesn't look like much change, but now I want you to go back with your selection tool, and each letter is now a shape. It's not editable type anymore. I'm using the direct selection tool, and if I wanted to, I could go in and zoom in on this. Just like I did with the Mickey Mouse ears, I pick one of these bounding points and I change the way my type looks. We get into that a lot later. I'm not sure why I jumped into that. I was just really excited about tweaking things with the direct selection tool. But the whole idea of making, taking a JPEG, a raster image that you find on the web, and turning it into workable line art that you can use is pretty cool. So, your homework, and you have the rest of official class to work on this, which is quite a bit of time. It's due at the start of class next week, and it's going to be an Illustrator file. So you have to do this in Illustrator because we're in the class called Illustrator. I want you to start with a blank document, and then using all of the shape tools that we learned, the Shaper tool, that cool one where you squiggle and make things go together, the stars, the circles, the half circles, the pies, and using fills and strokes, I want you to make basically a kindergarten type picture of like a house with grass maybe, you know, like draw out things with shapes. So a house with doors and windows and a chimney maybe, and whatever. Stars in the sky, moon in the sky, a sun, something like that. So make it be a letter-sized document. Print qualities, so it's going to be, you're going to choose from the print tab and make it a letter-sized document, either tall or wide, I don't care. And then practice all of the tools and all of the things we learned. So let's back up also to what we learned last week. Remember how we took all those shapes and we made them align to each other and space out equally? You guys can make a picket fence in front of your house really easily. You can make one piece of a white picket. You can copy it 6 times by alt dragging or option dragging it out. And then you can select them all and tell them to all line up on their tops and then all space out using the align and distribute things that we learned last chapter. You can make a picket fence. So use all of the skills from all 3 chapters. Chapter 1 was pretty much just about the work area, but chapter 2 and 3, incorporate those in your document. And I'm going to have you, when it's due at the start of class next week, but I'll give you a few minutes when we're all in class to print to the Ricoh, and we'll walk through that. And I'll also walk you through uploading the file to Blackboard next week. So just have it done in here, and we'll go from there. Yes?
So basically our lab today is to make a kindergarten style drawing of anything.
Of a house scene, like an outside of your house. And it doesn't, I said kindergarten just because we're only working with basic shapes, but it can be as elaborate as you feel like making it. Some of you I know have Illustrator background, and do limit yourself to just the tools we know so far, but really make it work. Like think, how could I make this picket fence be perfectly spaced without me doing the math? You know, Illustrator can do it for us. Don't have a stroke around everything. You know, remove the strokes off of certain things. Only have a stroke around things that matter. Something like that. So just play with it. That is your homework. Any questions?
Nope, I'm already on it.
Alrighty. Have fun.
Should we save today?